Hi, my name is Pete DiCarlo, and I'm going to take a brief moment to share a glimpse of how some of the things that we do on this planet end up impacting the Earth system and our health. The extraction of fossil fuels from the Earth and the processing of those fuels for use produces greenhouse gas emissions like carbon dioxide and methane. These gases trap additional energy in the Earth's system and act to warm the planet. Burning of fuels like gasoline and jet fuel produced for use in our vehicles and airplanes adds additional carbon dioxide to the air and adds further energy to our climate system. But I also want to talk about the processing of fossil fuels and the production of chemicals used in things like plastic production, chemicals for agriculture, chemicals for sterilization. This part of the petrochemical production also produces unwanted byproducts like hazardous air pollutants, or HAPs, which are released into the air that we breathe and can be particularly harmful for communities living nearby these industrial facilities. Sometimes, exposure harms related to petrochemical facilities can be sudden and devastating, such as the explosion of the Philadelphia refinery in 2019. This explosion and the subsequent destruction of the facility led to the closure of this complex, which had been in operation since 1865, causing significant contamination to the air, water, and soil in its more than 150 years of operation. Another example of an acute event is the train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio in 2023. This incident included the intentional ignition of vinyl chloride and other chemicals, all colorless liquids, which when burned produce thousands of other types of chemicals, seen in this black plume of smoke, leading to significant harm to local residents and land from the exposure to the many fire-derived chemicals over a short period of time. But in many cases, it is not a short-term or acute exposure event. In many cases, there are continued exposures for communities living at the fence line of industrial facilities. Each dot shown in this image is a petrochemical facility in the Gulf Coast region of the United States. Many of these facilities are clustered together along the Mississippi River in Louisiana, also known as Cancer Alley, and around Houston and other surrounding areas. As the colors of the census tract shown on this map become a darker shade of pink, the percentage of residents of color increases. The clustering of these petrochemical facilities in areas where the residents are predominantly people of color is an example of environmental injustice. Now, there is a lack of regulatory measurement data on hazardous air pollutants in these highly industrialized areas. Even less data exists on the most toxic chemical compounds and the ones that are most likely to cause cancer or other health impacts. Estimates of emissions from industrial facilities are typically self-reported by the facilities themselves and significantly underestimate the true emissions of these toxic chemicals and therefore the community exposure and health risks. Here at Johns Hopkins, we are working to better measure these chemicals in the air around the facilities so that community exposures and cancer and non-cancer risks from the continual exposure to these toxic pollutants can be better calculated and used by communities to advocate for cleaner air and better health.